In teasing out his own identity, Oedipus, yes, has to reckon with his lineage, his background with Jocasta and with Laius, and as these things come to the fore, these awful conclusions, he has to wrestle with them and wind up in a terrible state of awful suffering. But as that part of his story is unfolding, another one is also piecing itself together, which is another piece of what Greek identity is all about. Not just your lineage, recall, but also where you're from, the city, the land you're from. Oedipus's story of where he's from is interesting and complex, and we can take a look at a map to try to get a grip on how this story starts. You'll see here we've got Thebes, Kithaeron, and Corinth up here on our map, showing us all the pieces there around from mainland Greece down to the Peloponnese with the Corinthian peninsula in between. Thebes, a famous place, has a rich, complex background. We're going to talk about that next. We'll also see that playing out in Euripides' Bacchae that we're going to talk about next for this unit. Then also Corinth, another famous place, well-known, very civilized, very well settled. Kithaeron is a different thing. Kithaeron is a trackless wilderness out on a hillside, no civilization. It's unsettled, not kind of any well-known, famous, civilized place. Oedipus, in trying to figure out his own background and in trying to figure out the land he's from, toys with this connection to Thebes on the one hand, connection to Corinth on the other hand. Where does he fit? But as the play develops, the main vector connecting Oedipus to the soil around him actually goes back to this trackless wilderness of Kithaeron. Oedipus is going to be a hero, such as he is, from a place that is absolutely uncivilized. Kithaeron, we start to learn, has this important role in the story. It's looked at the very beginning. The question about land and where Oedipus is connected to it comes up when Creon is talking. He's characterizing the oracle that he got from Delphi. Line 110, he tells us the clue is in the land. Now, yes, that has one meaning. He's talking to Oedipus about how they have to find the murderer of Laius, and the murderer of Laius is still among them, so the clue is in their land. But the statement is also very general, and in that sense invites us to read into it, I think, a second layer of meaning that says the clue to finding out what you're all about, Oedipus, is also going to be in the land. The story unfolds. Oedipus starts to develop a further and deeper identity to this Kithaeron, this no man's land in the middle between the two places he thinks he might belong to, of Thebes and Corinth. We hear it from the from Jocasta, starting line 720, talking about how Laius casts Oedipus out forth on a pathless hillside. Casts Oedipus forth on a pathless hillside. Oedipus at this point doesn't know it's him that they're talking about. It's just the infant son, unnamed as of yet infant son. But you can see Oedipus start to realize that there's some connection here that's going to be happening with him. On 1027, this starts to come whole. The Corinthian messenger, who starts to piece together Oedipus's story in front of him, talks about on Kithaeron's slopes, in the twisting thickets you were found. He has a connection to this pathless hillside. The chorus at 1095, shortly after that, tells us or addresses Kithaeron directly, saying, Oedipus honors you as native to him, and mother and nurse at once. Kithaeron is now getting the position of being the actual lineage that makes Oedipus who Oedipus is. And then Oedipus himself, a couple of points at the closing of the play, talks directly to Kithaeron. Kithaeron, why did you receive me? Why, having received me, did you not kill me straight? And then finally, lines 1451 to 3, leave me in the mountains where Kithaeron is. That's called my mountain, which my father and my mother, while they were living, would have made my tomb. But instead, for Oedipus, this becomes his womb. Kithaeron, he starts to honor as the entity that gives him his start in life. He claims to be directly from the land. Now, this piece of Greek identity, remember we've talked about lineages that have to do with your background lineage, identities that have to do with your background lineage, your name, where you're from, and your story about your past. We've looked at how Oedipus's biological lineage is compromised. Kithaeron introduces us to how his connection to the land is compromised, so he has to kind of find a pathless, uncivilized place in the middle that he's from, between these two great places. Doesn't really belong to either of them. And then his name is going to come back to haunt him too as we get toward the close, and his own past comes fully together in what we've already seen, and that will come back down to weigh on him even more greatly in our next piece as we look at the connection between heroes and their land.